Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday. I am live in Starkville, Mississippi. Vandy women's basketball taking on Mississippi State tonight. Parker and TD back at the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. TD, what's going on?
What's up? What's up? Good morning. Good morning. How is Stark Vegas so far?
It is great. Nothing like waking up here in beautiful Mississippi. We got a big game coming up tonight, trying to get to 18-0 for the first time in program history. So excited for that. But we've got a busy show today, TD. Harbaugh Watch 2026 is officially over. We came out of yesterday's show, me and Corey, saying we might have an answer by the time that this show goes on the air the next day. Could the Titans get an interview today? And it was a roller coaster. He is in the building in New York. They're trying to not let him out. Then he leaves the building, and the report is that the Titans are flying to Baltimore, including Amy Adams Strunk, to go and visit with John Harbaugh today. But late last night, he made the commitment to the Giants, and he is now off the board. I think the Titans gave it their best swing, TD, but if he didn't want to visit anybody else, it does feel like it was the Giants all along for John Harbaugh.
Well, I think it was the Giants all along, but a keen eye on the Titans. And we know that this team is like a blank canvas, right? A canvas, rather. And I think that appealed to him. But at the same time, it goes back to something I said last week. And John Harbaugh, he's a historian. Like the Harbaugh family, they breathe football. They live football, and a lot of us do. But that being said, he's going to appreciate the significance of coaching the New York Football Giants. You know what I mean? I think that appealed to him. And then, look, they got a nice young quarterback. The defense has some pieces. They got some offensive pieces as well. We'll see if they bring back Wan'Dale Robinson. But I think end of the day, that opportunity is the one that appealed to him, even though the Titans did have some attractiveness as well.
Yeah, I think you looked at it, and every day it seemed more and more likely that the Titans were legitimate players in this. First it was, hey, don't sleep on the Titans. Then it was, oh, the Titans are one of the 3 finalists. And then yesterday, he did leave New Jersey and go back to his house, and all the conversations were that the Titans were going to get their chance to pitch this morning. I think you at least have to give the Titans some credit that I think they owed it to the fan base with all of the issues that have been going on the last few years, the bad hires, that with John Harbaugh on the market, at least give it your best shot and see if you can convince him to come. And it seems like the Titans, at the very least, pulled out all the stops to see if they could get John Harbaugh on board. It didn't work out, but I think they do at least deserve some credit for an organization that maybe has been a little less invested in some of these positions to go out there and say, hey, we will pay John Harbaugh if we can convince him to come to Nashville.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that they're willing to pony up and do the things necessary to bring him in, it definitely says that this organization, they're not playing around. And obviously the canvassing the whole spectrum of candidates. I mean, look, man, we're looking at like maybe 18, possibly 19 candidates that they're looking at. And they obviously didn't interview Harbaugh, so you say 18, but they're interviewing extensively. We just have to see how this thing continues to go on. We know Mike McDaniel was in the building yesterday. They had a virtual with Arthur Smith. I think you look at all these things, the alternates to Harbaugh, they're not bad options. I mean, you could you can still get a good coach in here. So that's something that's good. But to your point, though, they weren't playing about getting Harbaugh. If they're going to pony up and fly out there and try to pitch to him, I think that shows you.
I guess it doesn't matter anymore because he's chosen the Giants. But did you make anything of he's going to visit the Giants, but the Titans have to come to him? Do you think that kind of showed that maybe the Titans weren't being considered as heavily as the Giants from the very beginning?
I don't know how that conversation went. Like, for all we know, it could have been like, hey, look, man, we want you so bad. Look, we're going to come to you, okay? We're going to come. We want to make this easy. We're going to come to you. You know what I mean? It could have been that type of conversation. So, other team, if they're there are what, seven other, well, six other, because they're not counting, well, seven, counting the,
7 now, yeah.
not counting the Ravens. There were seven other teams who could have flown to Harbaugh also, right? But they didn't get the invitation. You know what I mean? The Falcons, we know he spoke to them or interviewed with them, whatever. But so we'll say six other teams that could have flown up there. The Titans were the ones that got the opportunity to do that. So I think just again, them being in the running, them being in that final three, that's all you need to know. They are for real. This job is for real. And it's not one that any of these candidates, if John Harbaugh is going to consider it, no candidate can scoff at it.
It's very true. I think that at the very least, this is a positive development for the Titans because it shows that, hey, the number one, as you said last week, the prettiest girl in the bar was interested in you for at least a little bit there,
Yeah.
even if she didn't end up choosing you. So with John Harbaugh off the board, I do wonder, does this accelerate things around the league? Do teams feel like, all right, now that Harbaugh's off the board, we have to make sure we get our guy because dominoes could start falling quickly? Or does this feel more like a one-off where Harbaugh was in a league of his own, he's off the board, now everybody can go back to completing their process all the way through?
I think it's a blend of the two, right? Because you look at Harbaugh, he is, I would say, somewhat in a league of his own, right? But then, you know, it accelerates the process somewhat in that, okay, well, you know what? The Titans and Falcons, they wanted him. Now their attentions are going to shift. I honestly hope this helps the Titans in that somebody goes and hires Stefanski. You know what I mean? But we'll see what happens. I think uh, Matt Nagy is still, to me, a really good candidate, and I know people don't want to hear it, but I still believe Arthur Smith is a candidate too. And we talked about this on Talking with TD yesterday. He is essentially, he's the offensive version of Mike Vrabel in that he is one that's not going to pull any punches. He is one that's going to hold people accountable. He is one that is welcoming of confrontation if that's what comes with holding people accountable. He coaches with a degree of jerkness to him. I talked about it yesterday, right? You look at the Ravens game 2019, right? They get the turnover. Now, only a jerk is going to say, "Okay, you know what? Right out that turnover, we coming with the haymaker, play
Go for
action,
the
deep
jugular.
shot, boom, touchdown, Khalif Raymond." See, those are the things that I like about Arthur Smith, the jerkness to that. Look, even though you're up by 2 scores, I'm going to continue running the football. You know what I mean? So don't discount Arthur Smith just yet. I still think he's a valid candidate.
With Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin now stepping down, maybe Arthur Smith isn't brought back as offensive coordinator with the Steelers. Does that seem like a possibility that even if he isn't the head coach, maybe he comes in as the OC and comes back to Nashville?
Very possible. I mean, look, let's say Chris Shula or Jeff Halfley get the job. First time head
Right.
coaches. Now you got a guy who knows this program inside out, but then also has been a head coach before. Why not make him a OC and assistant head coach or something along those lines? That, in my opinion, would be a bump up for Arthur Smith. And hey, look, he probably isn't going to be in Pittsburgh anyway, so the man's in need of a job.
Right, and he spoke to the Titans yesterday. Today, I guess with Harbaugh watch, today feels kind of like a wasted day for the Titans, right? I mean, you don't get to talk to anybody because they were planning on being in Baltimore. But I guess also it could give them a chance to reset.
Yeah.
And Monday is the day that they're allowed to have anybody in person in the building, and that's probably when they start bringing in the finalists for this job.
Yeah, because then you take those interviews from virtual to in person. They've also, with Mike McDaniel, believe it or not, they've satisfied the Rooney Rule, right? Because they have two in
Right.
person. Because Raheem Morris also, so you got that taken care of. But Vance Joseph is still hanging there. You know what I mean? You look at Chris Shula is still hanging there. So those are options, and that's those guys. I think are a reason why this is going to go into that AFC conference championship game that week. I think if the Broncos win and go there, it's going to be another week before they could really truly assess this situation.
Right. And you look at what the Titans have done so far, in-person interviews with Mike McCoy, Jason Garrett, Kevin Stefanski, Raheem Morris, Mike McDaniel, but everybody else has been on Zoom so far. I would assume they'd want to get some of those finalists in the building when they're able to, either next week or whenever their teams are eliminated from the playoffs. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lots to come on the show today. As always, your chance to talk to TD, so get your questions in for 10 a.m., 615-737-1025. We'll also look at the shocking news yesterday, Dante Moore returning to school. How does that affect the Titans at the top of the draft, and much more. But more on the coaching search coming up next. Who is standing out for the Titans as we get through week 2 of the Titans coaching search? That's up next. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. For the college football championship Monday night, catch all the action on 102.5 The Game and 94.9 The Fan as number 10 Miami takes on number 1 Indiana. The college football national championship coverage on 102.5 The Game and 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Parman Tractor and Equipment. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday. Looking into the Titans coaching search, John Harbaugh is off the board. He has at least agreed to become the next head coach of the New York Giants. They're working out the details now. Titans were supposed to fly out to Baltimore this morning to meet with John Harbaugh. That flight has been canceled. So the Titans turn their attention back to their wide search that they're conducting. 18 other candidates have either been interviewed, requested to be interviewed, or scheduled to be interviewed. And TD, I want to know if there's any indications of who is standing out for the Titans right now, because Harbaugh was very clearly high on their list, a guy that they wanted to go after. He was the big fish. But they've talked to a lot of people in this process, and we haven't heard a whole lot of buzz around any names. Do you have any indications of who might be towards the top of the list for the Titans?
Yeah, Mike McDaniel, Robert Saleh, Matt Nagy. Those guys are towards the top from what I understand. But, I mean, look, this is the thing. When you look at this whole situation, sometimes a guy will just come in and knock your socks off, and you don't bother to, you know, go through the rest of the list, or a guy come in and knock your socks off and he'll elevate himself above the other candidates. Heck, that's what Mike Tomlin did back when he interviewed with the Steelers. So don't sleep on these other guys. I mean, obviously, Chris Shula is very appealing. Obviously, Jeff Hafley is very appealing. You know, after seeing what Mike McDonald was able to do from a defensive perspective as a coordinator and go into being a very good head coach with the Seattle Seahawks. But I think a lot of that is also going to depend on these meetings that they have. They don't know until they meet with them who they would plan to bring in as coordinators and things like that. And I think a hot name, you know, that you have to look at as far as a coordinator is concerned, a OC, but he's actually getting some head coach interviews, and that's Nate Shieldhase. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. You know, the pass game coordinator with the Rams. You know, he has that Sean McVay cachet. So, you know, obviously, you know, you look at if one of the guys is able to communicate with him and bring him in as an OC, that's an appealing thing to the Titans. So you have to see how all this stuff plays out.
Yeah, I saw that he got the first request, I think, from the Steelers. So somebody that maybe you had been paying attention to. I don't know if the Titans would go for him as a head coach, another non-play calling offensive mind coming in as a first-time head coach, but definitely an option if he wants to get his feet wet calling plays and take that step up, kind of like Matt LaFleur did, leaving from under Sean McVay about 10 years ago. You mentioned Mike McDaniel there, and that's been a buzzy name around the Titans fan base. I want to know how you feel about him as a head coach, because I've said it this week that internally, I feel like I am stereotyping him based off of his clothes, the way he talks, that he's not a leader of men. Do you believe that he can fulfill that leadership quality that Mike Borgonzi has talked about, when maybe he's viewed as more of a suitable offensive coordinator than a head coach?
That is really the $1 million question. And I think when you look at Mike McDaniel and you look at just the way things went in Miami, Charles Barnes, who I brought up last week when we talked about Jason Garrett, he was on the show yesterday, Barnes Scouting, and he had mentioned something that I didn't really even think about, but this team started 1-6, and they managed to right the ship and be able to actually contend for a playoff spot, like be in the mix. So I think that right there tells you that even though he's not the guy that's going to come in and bang the table and, you know, all of that, point the finger and all that, he is a guy that can right a ship, right? He is a guy that can keep things in order. So you also have to look at what Mike Berganzi said when you know, he was asked about like the rah-rah type of leader, and he was like, not everybody leads, you know, that way. And I think that's something that McDaniel, I just wonder how he could set the culture. That's the big question. How can he set the culture like from the start? And I mean, he did a solid job with the Dolphins initially. So that is something to hang your hat on.
Yeah, I would not be fully against Mike McDaniel, but I always kind of viewed him as somebody who would be a great offensive coordinator hire, but I just didn't know if he'd be a head coach. But it does seem like he's going to get a head coaching job, at least based on how many interviews he's been getting.
Yeah.
2022 on the text line has some quote unquote tea for us. He says that Mike McDaniel and Jeff Fisher are on his plane to Baltimore right now. So there you go. I guess Mike McDaniel's next interview is with the Ravens.
Hey, so be it. We'll see what happens.
He,
I would love to see Brian Flores get either that job or get the Steelers job. But we'll see what happens with the Ravens. They've also cast a pretty wide net.
yeah, the Ravens, that is, I still think, the most attractive job on the market, and maybe there's a specific type of coach that they have to go get, because again, you did just give you showed John Harbaugh the door after 18 years. I think that you're looking for someone with a higher ceiling to try and take that team to a Super Bowl. Whereas, as we've talked about before, a lot of the other teams that are like the Titans and had 3 or 4 wins this year are probably looking for somebody with a higher floor who can get this team back to being competitive.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's something that you have to look at, and that's why I mean, look, man, there's a lot of appeal to Robert Saleh. I really hope they give him a really good shot at this job. Um, I want to see in this. It's I sway. I continue to sway. Between Robert Saleh, Matt Nagy, and Arthur Smith for different reasons. But I think Saleh, he gives you that tone setter, right? And I really like the
Yeah.
way Nick Wagner, he actually wrote about it. And one of the things that he discovered when he was with the Jets was, you know what? And it seems like common sense, but it's not always common. I got to connect with the whole roster, right? And he didn't really do that initially, and then he started to do it, but obviously everything with the Jets was just ridiculous and messed up. But one thing's for sure, that defense was really good. So that is something. And then obviously he went back to San Francisco as the coordinator, and when he went back there, one of the things that he really worked on this year was connecting with everybody. In fact, George Kittle, used to come to his office and they would chill out in the office, and he connected with other offensive guys. And you have to do that as a head coach. That's one of the things. The last presser that John Foster, that Bones did, I asked him about that, being a special teams coach, and how that's an advantage because you have to connect to the whole roster, and how he would want to be a head coach. Unfortunately, he didn't get the interview, but he would definitely love to do that. And I always say, and John Harbaugh himself, when he went to the Ravens, he went from the Eagles as a special teams coach, again, in a position where you're touching the whole roster, and that just comes second nature. It isn't always common, right? The common sense. And I think that's an example.
Yeah, Robert Saleh, I've seen people say it that there doesn't feel to like there's a better culture fit than Robert Saleh going to the Steelers. Like that kind of feels like a good match. But if that happened, Aaron Rodgers would have to be shown the door very fast. There is no chance Robert Saleh is signing up for that job if Aaron Rodgers is going to be his quarterback.
No way. Yeah, that ain't happening.
Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey has called in. We haven't heard from Trey in a little bit here. Trey, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing today?
Oh man, we're better now, man. We about to put out an APB
Yeah,
for you, man.
APB out on me.
Yeah.
I know it, brother. I know it. Hey, I told them y'all need to give me a little section down there with y'all, and I'll be over there every day. I bring coffee and donuts and everything.
Hey, now you talking crazy thing. I had a dream I was eating donuts this morning. So hey, man, you right on point.
The cream so fast. See, we got that mind thing going on.
That sign says hot. You know what time it is.
That's right. Hey, but I wanted to say, yesterday I was like, everybody was talking about Coach Harbaugh coming here, and they was getting on the plane to go to see him at his house. And then I see another article saying, oh, he made $100 million deal with New York. Okay, first off, number one, why did he want to go to New York? Like, I feel like personally, my team has a better maceration process than the Giants. Number one, we got a new stadium coming. Number two, we play in a good division. Number three, we have an up and coming quarterback. Number four, you don't have to pay state taxes. Number five, you can develop this Titans team. And I feel like that the marketing apparatus over there at the Titans really don't know how to sell the Titans. Like the Titans got a lot of stuff going on. I don't understand why he want to be in New York where he's going to be paying $2,000 a month electric bill. They gonna eat that little hundred. They gonna eat that little 100 million up, and his team is gonna be bad. I'm telling you, the Titans. I promise you, on everything I love, the Titans will win more games than the Giants next year. And the only reason Coach Harbaugh was over 62% was because of Lamar Jackson's skill. When Lamar was out, his record tanked. Why is that? Because he had a good quarterback, and I feel like we got a good quarterback going into these next couple of years, and, I feel good about it. But we need somebody to come here and be a commander, be a leader, be an alpha dog, like TD, like Jake, like me, like everybody that I deal with, we alpha dogs. We don't need somebody that's going to be coming here acting like a little pussy. We need somebody that's going to come here and make these dudes do what they need.
Hey, Trey was saying it with his heart. With his heart, man.
I mean,
he said it off his chest. Look.
Oh my goodness.
I love the emotion. I love the emotion, Trey, and I appreciate that. Sorry we had to cut it, that little language there. But listen, man, when it comes to this sport, it's played with the emotion. So when you're a fan of the sport, you're going to have the emotion. I get what he's saying, but look, man, Jackson Dart is a good quarterback in himself. I think when you compare the two situations, I feel the Titans situation is a better situation, but the roster for the Giants is a bit better. And I think that's really that, and the appeal of coaching the New York Football Giants. I think that's what drew them. And I mean, look, man, $100 million, that definitely, if that is what the number is, that says a lot.
Yeah, $100 million. Living in New York is more expensive than living in Nashville, and you get the state taxes taken out, but $100 million is still a lot of money. And also, let's just say John Harbaugh's record was good before Lamar Jackson, so I don't think you can say his winning record is only because of Lamar. He did win a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, so. I need a moment to recover from that call from Trey. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get to more of your phones. Again, your chance to talk to TD, get your questions in at 10 o'clock, 615-737-1025. We'll get to all of those. And also, I wanted to get to Mike McCarthy because he is coming in to interview on Saturday. Maybe the most similar candidate on the market to a John Harbaugh. Could the Titans end up kicking the tires on him? We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, alongside you on your Thursday morning. Titans coaching search rolling along. One target off the market. John Harbaugh going to be the next head coach of the New York Giants. He canceled his visit with the Titans today at his house in Baltimore, so the Titans turn their attention back to their other candidates. Let's go to our phones, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jack has been waiting patiently. Jack, thanks for calling. What you got?
Yes, I had a thing that keeps running through my mind about this coaching search, and ultimately it strikes me it's going to have to be a compromise in as much as they're going to have to find somebody that they think is the right candidate, and yet that candidate is going to have to be willing to step out on faith almost that he won't get caught up in the roulette wheel of hiring and firing that they've almost made an art out of around here. And I think there's a couple of guys, that'll just politely say, thanks, but no thanks because of it.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jack. TD, I think that's being overblown a little bit. Corey and I had the conversation about Amy Adams-Strunk yesterday, and Amy for sure has her fault in, and I would say a majority of the blame for what's happened the last few years should fall on her shoulders.
Yeah.
But I don't see candidates being overly scared to take this job worried they're going to be fired in 2 years, because I think you can see from Amy Adams-Strunk, she doesn't want to continue to be, I guess, reprimanded in the media. And if she does that and fires everybody again after 2 years, I think that's what's going to happen. So I think whoever they hire for this one, they're going to give a little bit of a longer runway to try and figure this thing out.
Yeah, and I don't look, it's not even as much the media to me as it is who wants to do that. Like, you don't want to pay 3 coaches at once. You know what I mean? You don't want to continually hit the reset button. And I think that's really the main thing. But she just has to find that balance. And I think, look, man, the fact that, she gassed up the jet and was like, hey, fellas, we out. Like, that's admirable, man. That shows she's not playing around. But to me, I think she gets such a bad rap. And I know people are going to say, oh, you're carrying water. Look, man, here's the thing. When she does get involved in this type of situation, right? Everybody's like, oh, well, she needs to stay out of it, this, that, and the third. But then all season, what was everybody saying? Oh, she needs to be involved. Like, the poor woman can't win.
We want to hear from her.
Yeah, she can't win. And I think the bottom line, this decision, it's, to me, this might be the most monumental hire in this franchise's Titan-wise, this franchise's history. I think this could very well be that situation because they've never selected a quarterback number. I don't believe they've selected a quarterback number 1 overall.
Nope.
Right? And so you got that. You got the development of that. You got, the franchise is in the dumps. Like they are in the cellar, the sewer of the league right now. They need to be elevated back to where they were when Arthur Smith was the OC, right? And Mike Vrabel was the head coach. So you have that, and also you got the new stadium. Now, that's not important to the head coach, but to the organization, I think that's important, the new stadium. So this is a hire they have to get right, and it has to be one that, and you got to stick with this decision for, 4 years, et cetera, unless it's just like completely bad, but, and then it's just another mess.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think this is a massive turning point for this organization. You have the young quarterback. The new stadium opens up in a year, and there is a path where you get this hire right. You make the right picks. You make the right signings this offseason, and this team is a competitive franchise heading into the new stadium in 2027. There's also the scenario you get this hire wrong, Cam Ward doesn't develop, and you end up having to start over heading into the new stadium. And I don't know if fans are going to be on board with this rebuild taking another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
This team, the fan base got a taste of what it was like to be competitive and a Super Bowl contender again for about 3 or 4 years there. they're not going to be good with another 10 years not having a playoff win. And I think Amy knows that. And that stadium, if she wants it to be full, this hire has to be the right hire for the long term for this franchise.
Yeah, it has to be, for those reasons. And you got to get this quarterback up to his potential. You know what I mean? So there's a lot that is going into this decision. Like I said, it's monumental, man.
Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Josh has called in. Josh, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. First time I've ever called. I got to say this quick. I might lose service. If they really, really want to hire a great head coach, they need to tell them and remind them that the Titans have never won a Super Bowl before. And they have an opportunity to be a legend by coming here, lifting a team out of the ashes and making them a champion, possibly in the new stadium. Nashville's a destination city. I'm sure the Super Bowl will come here at some point. What if all that timing lines up? They get to do something that nobody else in the NFL has ever done. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Josh.
Tampa, they won a Super Bowl in Tampa, but still, we're talking about one time. So, I mean, yeah, it's very significant. Josh must have Verizon.
Yeah, it's been – I guess they did fix the outage yesterday.
Yeah,
I thought it was my phone at first.
That's what I thought, man. I rebooted my phone 3 times.
No, I get what he's saying. I think there are reasons that this job is attractive to people, and we've gone through it. It's been reported through the Harbaugh saga of, these are all the reasons people want to come to Nashville. Diana Rossini said it yesterday. Cam Ward, Mike Borgonzi are big reasons why people want to come to Nashville. I don't think there's going to be an issue of the Titans not being able to find a candidate to take this job. Sure, maybe there's a scenario where one candidate has multiple offers and he could choose another job over the Titans. I don't think the Titans are the best job left on the market, but I do think that the Titans are going to be an attractive job to some of these candidates. And the Titans have lots of candidates to look through. And I would expect we're going to see some finalists come out in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I think as you start to see the second round of interviews go in person, I mean, it's just like, us doing this show. It's not the same, man, with you out there in Stark Vegas and me here. You know what I mean? But when we're here in person, the energy is back and forth. So I think when you look at this, man, it's just this process is just going to continue to work out. Mike Borgonzi said when he had his presser, he said there isn't any set timetable or anything like that. He's going to exhaust it as long as it takes to find the right candidate. So this is nothing to be surprised about. Obviously, they thought Harbaugh was the right candidate, and they, tried to strike while it was hot, and it didn't happen. So you just recalibrate. And look, you got Mike McCarthy coming in on Saturday. You got, I think Brian Daboll is going to be here today. You got a series of interviews coming up, so they're just going to continue. It's a sorting process, right? Like you sort through and you find the right one through a process of elimination and of getting to know the person and research, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we'll see.
Yeah, and just like the Titans, we'll be back in person together next week too. So looking forward to that. But let's get into some of those names. And if you have any thoughts, you can text or call our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, get your questions in for TD. We will get to all of your questions coming up at the top of the hour. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Your chance to talk to TD is coming up in about 15 minutes, so get your questions in, 615-737-1025. You can text or call our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Hey, Jake, TD's having a little dance party right now.
Oh, he is. I can't see, which is the just like TD was talking about. We don't get the same vibes when I'm out here in Starkville.
Yeah, man. I went in the other part with Parker to turn the heat up a little bit because it's feeling like Green Bay in here. So I came back in and got that chance to rap with that song right there. Yeah, I remember me and Jordan Matthews used to jam to that at Eagles practice, man. In 2016, I remember that, man. That was dope, man. That song brings back memories.
Parker off to a good start today with the music. To get to a quick text here, Justin from Greenbrier says, not to be some kind of snitch, but how could the Giants hire Harbaugh if they didn't satisfy the Rooney Rule? They did. There was reports out yesterday, and I said one on the air because I believed it on Twitter, but it was not true. The Giants did satisfy the Rooney Rule. They interviewed Antonio Pierce and Raheem Morris in person. So they can fully, legally hire John Harbaugh.
Man,
looking at the Titans, go ahead.
The league needs to do Raheem Morris a favor, man, because he's doing a lot of these Rooney Rule interviews, man. I appreciate the opportunity, but man, is it really? I don't know. I don't know. Let me stop before I say something that gets me pink slip.
I get what you're saying, because it is frustrating where it does feel like it's just checking a box at some points, but also you hope that him getting in the room maybe gives him the opportunity, even if it's not for a head coaching job, to get back onto his staff as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Let's look at some of these names for the Titans. And I specifically wanted to bring up Mike McCarthy because John Harbaugh and Mike McCarthy, we went through the numbers last week of they're very similar if you're just looking black and white at what they've done in the NFL. Each have one Super Bowl win that was over a decade ago. They have, I think John Harbaugh has 6 more regular season wins in the same amount of years and 1 more playoff win. They have basically done the exact same thing. Mike McCarthy obviously was at 2 different stops with Green Bay and Dallas. Do you think the Titans are pretty seriously considering Mike McCarthy if Harbaugh was somebody that they were ready to go all in on? And, again, Amy fuels up the private jet and was ready to take them out to Baltimore. Do you think maybe Mike McCarthy could be a pseudo John Harbaugh-like hire if he comes in and interviews well on Saturday?
Yeah, and, here's the thing. Mike McCarthy, you look 174, 112, and 2, 11-11 in the postseason. I mean, look, that's not anything to scoff at. He is obviously a guy that has his warts, right? You look at in Dallas, they didn't necessarily do what they should have done with that packed roster, but this man has a history. He comes from the Packer tree. We know that's something that Chad Brinker, although he's not making the decisions, he's a key part of that what can you say, that committee, right?
Yeah,
there's a synergy there, between the McCarthy and Chad Brinker, and obviously they're not best friends or whatever, but I think there's a business relationship that it can be fruitful. So yeah, I mean, he's a guy I would look at. You look at the success that he's had proven, with Dak Prescott, with obviously Aaron Rodgers, and look, it's not like he developed them, but being able to work with those guys does have some cachet. So to me, looking at that, he does have appeal. But in my opinion, I believe Matt Nagy would be a better. To me, it still remains Matt Nagy, Robert Saleh, Vance Joseph is a guy I have to consider. Like, I'll put it this way. I don't put Mike McCarthy in that upper part of the likelihood to get the job.
Okay. And Matt Nagy is the one that we talk about a lot because of the clear relationship with Mike Borgonzi. And I think it was DVD was talking about it yesterday about how his PR, his agents, his managers, they have been pushing him. They did the blind spot report of all of the coaches and players who worked with him of things that he can do better. And he talked with Jonathan Jones about that. I like Matt Nagy. I don't love Matt Nagy. Again, it would be one of those hires where it's like, okay, that's fine. But I don't think most of the fan base would feel that way. I feel like that would be the one hire that the fan base would be upset about, mostly because I think I guess the feeling would be that, oh, Borgonzi just hired his buddy. But when you're talking to 18 different people, I don't think you can say that Mike Borgonzi didn't go through a thorough process, even if he does end up hiring Matt Nagy.
Okay. Yeah, look, you're right. And that is something I intentionally asked him about that at the press conference. You know what I mean? And he said he's not going to allow the Chiefs bias to dictate who he goes with, right? So let's go a little beyond that, okay? Let's go a little beyond that and look at Matt Nagy. You know, he played the position, right? So you do have that. He played it professionally as well. Maybe not in the NFL, but in the Arena League. Now, when you look at Cam Ward, what was the one thing we wanted Brian Callahan to do with Cam that he didn't do? RPOs, right?
Yeah.
Matt Nagy is extremely heavy RPO wise. And I found this number, right? His first year as the Bears head coach, 19.2% of the team's total play calls were RPOs. You know who was second? Or you know who was first, rather? Because it was the second most.
Chiefs?
Yeah, Andy Reid. Right?
Yeah.
And so we also have to look at some of the things that have gone into his offense, his concepts, right? You got the RPOs, you got the motions, you got a mix of gap and zone schemes. Anytime you run zone scheme, play action off of that is golden. Just go back and look at the 2019, 2020 Titans teams. Please go back and do that, right? Look at a lot of the teams in the league. Look at the old Broncos teams. Look at the 49ers. You know, you run play action off a zone scheme. It works, right? So you got that. But then you also have to look at, and this name continues to come up, and there's a reason. There's a reason. I don't think it's a coincidence that Mike McDaniel, Matt Nagy, Jason Garrett, I'm blanking, and maybe two other offensive minds also, but these guys have ties back to Eric Coryell. Don Coryell is a Hall of Fame. He revolutionized football, right, with his vertical passing scheme. But a lot of that is something that these coaches like Matt Nagy, like Jason Garrett, you know, via Norv Turner, you know, Nagy studied Don Coryell, and he has a lot of vertical passing concepts that are off of play action and things like that. And that was, to me, the appeal with Jason Garrett. So when you're able to marry, you know, the two. Now, I'm not saying he ran the ball heavily because, you know, they were more of a passing offense there. But
yeah,
I think when you look at marrying a run scheme, when you look at marrying that to play action and vertical passing and RPOs, this is, I personally believe that Matt Nagy is one of the ideal candidates for Cam Ward. And I think you also have to look at the Arena League influence that he has, the creativity, the wide open passing game. That's something else that's great for Cam Ward. I personally, like I said, Matt Nagy to me is a very good candidate for him. And I think it's not just because he worked with Patrick Mahomes. That helps. But you look at the whole picture, he's a guy that would be ideal. Now, it just is going to have to come down to, okay, are you going to be able to connect with everyone? Are you going to be able to set the culture? Those are the things. And obviously, you know, late in his tenure with the Bears, you know, that stuff kind of went haywire. So that's something that's going to have to be considered. But like we said, Charles Barnes, you know, I bring him up again because we had a great conversation on Talking with TD yesterday. And like he said, you look at the cachet that he could bring in. Imagine, he said he doesn't want to call plays, right? Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
How about going to get Doug Peterson to come in and call the plays? A Super Bowl winning coach. You see what I mean? How about getting Press Taylor? I asked Charles yesterday. He didn't know. Press Taylor is the one that brought the Philly special to the Eagles, right? So, and you know where that came from? Nagy and the Bears, coincidentally. So I think when you look at all of these things, that situation would be a really good one, in my opinion.
Yeah, and what I've been saying with Nagy all along is, again, the reaction is going to be that it's, oh, he hired his friend. I think if Matt Nagy gets hired, he has to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is the guy, because I'm sure Mike Borgonzi is going to be a little bit more thorough with Matt Nagy because he knows what the blowback will be if he hires Matt Nagy. He has to be 100% sure he's right, because you don't, if it doesn't work out and Mike Borgonzi hired his buddy, then he's out the door too. So I think Mike Borgonzi understands how important this hire is. He's not going to just hire Matt Nagy because he likes Matt Nagy as a person. He's going to hire him if he is the perfect guy for this job.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. And look, I know, like in the group chat, I keep saying, "Hey, it's a buddy hire." Look, just because a guy is your friend and you hire him, that doesn't mean you hired him because of that. You know what I'm saying? You could have a friend that is good at their job and you hire them because they're good at the job. I think, and they have potential, right? Because you know what we've seen from Matt Nagy, I don't think you would say is good. Okay, it has shown signs on both sides, right? So I think this hire would be beyond just a friendship one. And again, if you're going to interview 18 and consider flying to the 19th, yeah, you're not just doing that just to say, "Hey, I want you guys to see I wasn't just hiring my buddy." You're doing it
Right.
because you're canvassing the whole landscape of candidates.
Yeah, it's not a sham interview process when, again, Amy gasses up the jet to go out and meet with somebody else. So the Titans still have a lot of work to do to find their next head coach. 8 openings now. John Harbaugh off the market. He is going to the Giants. Titans will be able to start interviewing finalists in person starting next week. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. It is now your chance to talk to TD. 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Text or call with any questions you have for Teron Davenport, Titans or otherwise. We will also continue to talk about other Titans head coaching candidates. We'll talk Kevin Stefanski. We'll talk some others. And also Dante Moore returning to school. How does that affect the Titans? All of that coming up later on in the show. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 up next. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game on this TD Thursday. Jake Lyman live in Starkville, Mississippi. Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. It is 10 a.m. on a Thursday, which means it is your chance to talk to TD. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Get your questions in. We've already got a lot on the text line. TD, let's start with one that I've seen a couple throughout the morning. Mike Tomlin, he has stepped down as the head coach of the Steelers. They still retain his rights, and it looks like he's taking a year off from coaching. A lot of people are saying, don't the Titans have to at least call? I would at least guess that they have, but I don't think Mike Tomlin is going to coach at the NFL level this year.
Yeah, don't be surprised if he's in media. I'm pretty sure that that's the direction. I kind of got wind of something that may happen, not with ESPN, but I think there is something that is there to that. They probably did call, but even though he stepped down, like, isn't he still? Don't the Steelers still have rights to
yes.
his? So. You're looking at.
You'd have to give up draft capital.
Yeah. Do you want to do that? No. And we know that that's something that they don't want to do because of the whole draft, develop, retain concept. You know what I mean? So look, a call probably happened, but that is doing your due diligence. But I don't think that that's even in play.
Yeah, I like Mike Tomlin as a coach. I really do. I think he would be a home run hire. But you don't give up the 4th overall pick for a coach. And that's probably what it would cost you if you were going to go get Mike Tomlin. Let's go to another TD from Nashville who has texted in. He says, and I think this is a really good question. Just how much is money a factor when it comes to coaches wanting to take a job anywhere? In this process, there's a whole lot of factors. Do you think money is at the top, or does it have to be the right fit?
Look, everybody that puts in this much time, they love football, but money is also important. So I think it's a combination of all those: the right fit, the money, the opportunity, everything. And I think, to your point earlier, or to one of the texters' points, where the caller rather, where he said, it was Jack, right, in the car, in the loud car. He has said it's important to present the challenge. Hey, no one's ever won a Super Bowl here with this team. You could be a legend. The challenge, right? These guys are competitors, right? The opportunity to do something unprecedented in a city is appealing. So I think you have all of those in the mix.
Yeah, I think money is a factor, but it does feel like for these guys taking NFL head coaching jobs, you're going to get paid what you're worth, and it's going to be millions of dollars. I think a lot of it does have to do with the attractiveness of the job and how long you can succeed there, because all these jobs are going to pay you a lot of money, probably very comparable from team to team. It's about whether you think you can be there for 10 years, or do you think that this is a job where it's pretty unlikely you're going to be able to make it work?
Yeah, and I think that's really what it boils down to. Can you make it work? Is it a challenge that is appealing to you, along with the money? But it's not like any of these guys are broke. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
money is important, but it's not everything. And I think the understanding that this is one of 32 opportunities in the world to do this. Yeah, that has a great degree of appeal as well.
Well, and I also want to mention that if you're asking specifically about the Titans, and I know the reports out there that Brian Callahan was making about $3 million a year, which it's relatively low compared to other salaries among NFL head coaches. I don't think the Titans get the plane ready to go meet John Harbaugh unless they were willing to meet his demands, which were reportedly around $20 million.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot of money, but I think Amy Adams Strunk realizes the gravity of the situation of, hey, you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to pay a guy a lot if you're going to get a head coach who's worthy of coming in and trying to turn this thing around. Back to the text line. Ron says, hey, TD, do you think the Titans are also making phone calls to coaches who already have a job and are not in the so-called list of coaches available. I guess maybe some of the guys that aren't listed on that list of 18. Do you think there's anybody else that the Titans have been talking to?
Well, I hope they're not talking to somebody who already has a job. That's tampering. No, I mean, look, 19 names, that's a lot. That's a lot. So I don't know that there are any other well, Cliff Kingsbury is one. Or is he on the list? I don't.
Cliff Kingsbury is on the list. I think he's the only one that we don't know when he's interviewing.
Okay. Yeah. So I think they pretty much have listed who they're going to talk to. I'd be surprised if there's any outside of that 19.
Yeah, 19 is a lot. And it's 18 interviews, but again, they had the plane ready to go meet with John Harbaugh. I think we can say 19 total. So the Titans have cast a wide net. I would think that the Titans' next head coach is in those 19 names. Let's see. I had seen one more.
Anything in there on Stefanski?
That was good. Well, let's talk Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski obviously is a guy who has been sought after in this process. I know the conversation was that the Falcons were high on Stefanski if Harbaugh ended up going elsewhere, which has now happened. The Titans could be very interested in Stefanski too. He came and met with the team last Saturday. I know you are not a big Stefanski guy. Do you think that the Titans are seriously interested in him moving forward?
I think there's interest. I think there's definitely interest. And I know he was a 2-time coach of the year, but someone that I really trust, they brought up some really good points. And I think when you look at this, right, who has he developed at quarterback? Right.
Yeah.
And then think about how the different styles of quarterbacks he's had.
Yeah, Baker, Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco for a year there,
and none of them were a true fit, right?
Yeah.
And then also, you talk about culture, a guy who sets culture, and this goes back to something I said before. If you're going to let personal issues, whatever that is, get in the way of the organization's goal, which is to win, why do I want you in my area? Why do I want you? Why do I want that here? Right? And the Shador situation is damning. I mean, your quarterback comes off the field and you don't even go talk to him, and you're supposed to be an offense. I can't get down with that, man. And a winning culture, right? A winning culture isn't going to allow personal issues to get in the way of the common goal. But that's what happened when the Titans and Browns played.
Yeah.
You can't tell me a single reason why. And I wish somebody would have asked him, like, what were you thinking to take your quarterback that passed for 364 yards off the field for that 2-point conversion? Like, what were you thinking? What did you see? What made you do that? I really would love to know. Me personally, I wouldn't want that running my organization. I'm sorry. I wouldn't want that as the CEO of my franchise. No, thank you.
I think he is going to get a job, but yeah, I think his name, when it first got out that he was going to be available, the Browns fired him. I think everybody kind of looked and said 2-time coach of the year. But you are right. I think if you look a little bit deeper, what exactly about his offense has been successful? And the last couple of years, it hasn't been all that successful. Baker Mayfield got run out of town. I know that was kind of an ownership decision of Deshaun Watson wanting to come in, and he's been stuck with some bad quarterback situations. But I do agree with you that even if he did not want Shador Sanders, it is your job as a head coach to coach the players that are given to you by the front office and do your best to try and help them and help that team win. And I think there definitely were some things that Kevin Stefanski did not do very well when it came to handling that situation this past year.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it's funny, like this big opposite, like this big non-endorsement that I'm giving, watch him end up being the coach.
Right.
But
right. Yeah, I'm sure that'll I'm thinking about it, and I had thought Stefanski would be a finalist, but I don't know. I think there are guys out there who do what he does and might be better at it.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned some of the other offensive names out there. I think I would probably lean a Mike McCarthy over him. Stefanski does have the pedigree of success as a head coach, so I would probably take him over Arthur Smith. But maybe I put Stefanski in kind of the same tier as a Mike McDaniel I think they're good offensive coordinators. I don't know if they could be the head coach.
Yeah, and I mean, look, he had a couple good seasons with the Browns. Let's not, sugarcoat this thing. And they resulted in Coach of the Year awards, But
Yep.
I think overall body of work is not one to where you put him in that upper echelon of guys. Again, you want somebody. To me, the Matt Nagy has more appeal than Kevin Stefanski because he comes from that tree, right? He had a hand in that Patrick Mahomes development. You know what I mean? He's a guy. Andy Reid once called right before when Matt Nagy was in that hiring cycle when he got the Bears job. Andy Reid called him the best coaching candidate he's ever had on his staff.
Wow.
So
that's high praise.
Take with that what you will. And look, there are things with Stefanski that are appealing as far as some of the play action, the zone, the run blocking, the zone scheme rather. I think the West Coast concepts, those are all appealing, but I just don't see that. I can't get over that hurdle of allowing a personal thing to get in the way. That's just something I just can't get over that. And I wouldn't be able to get over that if I was hiring this coach, if I was in charge of this, because look, there are going to be times where you don't want a player, but I want him, as Mike Berganza is the GM. And it's like, you're going to take this guy. I know you don't want him, but you're going to take this guy that I want over the guy that you want, and you're going to coach him. And he's already shown that can be an issue.
I would hope that Mike Borgonzi, when he met with Kevin Stefanski, asked some questions about that whole saga, because clearly there were some red flags of the way Kevin Stefanski handled that. I understand as a head coach, you probably wanted Dylan Gabriel and didn't want the distraction of Shedeur Sanders picking him 2 rounds later. But when the guy's in your building, it is your job to coach him up and do the best that you can. And clearly, Kevin Stefanski had some issues with that. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get to more of your questions and your phones on the other side. Your chance to talk to TD. Get your questions in. 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Your chance to talk to TD right now. Getting to your questions on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's go to our phone lines. Matt wants to chime in on the coaching search. Matt, please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. What's up
Yes,
with
we got
you?
Okay. Hey, what's going on? Hey, always good to be on with the great TD because we get the knowledge and we get the music.
You heard that Slick Rick? You heard that Slick Rick
man,
coming back?
Hey, that was the remix right there. They don't know nothing about that, man.
Knock him out the box, Rick. Knock him out.
Hey, TD, you gotta be careful. They don't know nothing about that.
Hey,
Anyway,
listen, we gotta educate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So real quick, just wanted a statement. Then I got a question for TD and Jake. There's 32 teams in the NFL. In my opinion, you got two coaches. I'm just saying it. You got Kyle Shanahan and you got the mad scientist Sean McVay out in L.A. We got to roll the dice on somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knew Ben Johnson would be what he is in Chicago right now? We got to roll the dice on somebody. So, my question to you is, if we pick a guy like, say a guy like McCarthy, who has a winning record, or, you know, any of these other guys, like, why? My question really is, what is the real reason that everybody's so scared of the Matt Nagy hire? I mean, to me, it seems like it's going to happen. We're just kind of delaying the inevitable. If not, you know, McDaniels, he did have success in Miami for a little bit, but then they booted him out. Like, you know, we got to roll the dice on somebody. So my question to y'all is, who do you really want? Who would you want, TD and Jake? Who would you really want? Not who you wish for, but who would you want for this city and this team to build us back up? And that's all I got.
That's a great question and a really good call, because Matt is right. Like, nobody knew for sure that Ben Johnson would have this degree of success and turn that organization around quickly. In fact, when that hiring cycle happened with Brian Callahan and Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson, I had heard a lot of things coming out of Detroit about lack of leadership skills, right? And it's just one of those things where you really don't know until they're in that position. So that being said, I don't see what the people are afraid of with Matt Nagy. And again, I know that there's a degree of familiarity and the bias from being in Kansas City, but to me, why would you not want somebody that had a hand in developing the best quarterback ever? Why would you not want somebody who was there for two of the organization's 3 championships in the last 6 years? I don't see why you wouldn't want that, you know? So those are my thoughts there. Now, with Mike McCarthy, as Matt said, he has a winning record. This is a guy who's won a Super Bowl. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but he's won a Super Bowl. He knows what it looks like. He's a guy who has been there as far as a part of a winning organization. To me, the one hiccup would be, at 62 years old, are you able to connect with these guys that could be your grandson? You know, and that's the big thing to me. Will you be able to connect with those guys? Because you have to be able to do that in order to maximize their talent and their potential.
Yeah, and it's a good point too on the age, because you do want this next head coach to be the long-term solution here. And I don't think going through this process you can say, well, 10 years from now, is he still going to be our head coach? You've got to be thinking about the next 3 to 5 years with this guy. But I also do understand the maybe a little bit of hesitancy from fans of, hey, he's 62. Even if he is good for a few years, is he going to be around long enough to be able to sustain success with this team? I think maybe that's something too. And you mentioned, you're right, it's a different generation Mike McCarthy is in now than even what he was with the Cowboys, right? I mean, he's been out of the league another year. He's a year older. The players are a year younger. There is a little bit of that of, can he still connect with the locker room like he did in his first 2 stops?
Yeah, exactly. And look, I don't think it would be a catastrophe if they hired him, but if they hire him, they need to make sure that they get somebody else that, you know, can be brought along, and just like a succession plan. But frankly, this organization, because of the turnover, like, they need to focus on, okay, look, can you get 3 years of success, like 3 successful years? Can you get a coach that's going to coach longer than, are you going to give him that reign that Brian Callahan wasn't truly given? Because again, going into the season, it was pretty well, like we knew, hey, he's going to be on the grill if stuff doesn't go right. But it also seemed like there was somewhat of a dedication to continuity, to, having things the same for Cam Ward from year 1 to year 2. That plan was packed up and shot to Jupiter quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would love for the Titans to find, as Matt said, find your Sean McVay, find your Kyle Shanahan, who can keep you in contention year over year, and they're your next head coach for a decade plus. But you're right. The focus has to be on turning this thing around over the next few years, not what's going to happen in 2035. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. We got loaded phone lines, so let's continue Talk to TD for at least one more segment here. We will get to your phones coming up next. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. It is a TD Thursday, and as it seems always happens, we get So many questions for TD, so we're extending Talk to TD for at least one more segment. We've got loaded phone lines. Let's go to them now. Let's start with Lance. Lance, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Yes, I don't understand why the Titans don't go with a proven product. You take McCarthy, just for instance. That man, he had 12-game winning seasons with the Cowboys. You do that with the Cowboys, having to deal with the Jones family, you got to be a pretty darn good coach because somebody's meddling with you all the time. Same way with Nagy and the Bears. You know that there's such a scrutiny up there with the fans and how they're messed with all the time. They go through coaches like running water. I would go with a proven product and quit trying to find the diamond in the rough. Let a diamond in the rough come to a coordinator after you get a proven product, and then see where it goes from there. And I'll hang up and listen.
No,
yeah, that's it. It's a good call.
Yeah, no, that's a good call, a good point. In regards to being able to coach the Cowboys with all the meddling and stuff. But I would say this: the Cowboys there wasn't a shortage of talent. You know what I mean? So I would say, as talented as those teams were, that to me would offset Jerry Jones is meddling and things like that. So, but I mean, he's right. Lance is 100% correct. McCarthy is a proven product, so it's nothing to not want to look at and not consider. I mean, absolutely.
Well, and you look at the Titans interview requests, and we'll throw Harbaugh in there for the sake of it. 15 of the 19 have been NFL head coaches before. So they have a type. They clearly have are valuing the experience of having been a head coach before. The only non-head coaches are Lou Anarumo, Chris Shula, Jesse Minter, Jeff Hafley, and Hafley was a head coach at the college level. So clearly experience and having a proven track record as a head coach is valuable in this Titans head coaching search.
Yeah, and that's only right. It's only right.
Especially with the issues Brian Callahan had. A lot of it had to do with inexperience and learning on the job. And so I think the Titans want somebody who's going to be able to come in here and hit the ground running. Let's go back to our phone lines. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, Jake. Brian Callahan gets another opportunity, I believe he'll be a better coach. And it's just like a relationship. And this is what I liken it to, right? So let's say you're in a relationship, you have a really good woman, and you realize she's a good woman, but there are things like maybe you don't buy her flowers consistently, or maybe you don't take her out on enough dates, right? And it gets to a point where the relationship runs its course and you guys are separated and not together anymore. The next relationship, you're going to be like, yo, I want to keep this fire burning. So let me make sure I buy the flowers. Let me make sure I date her frequently. Let me make sure I do this and do that. It's just the same. And I think that's what you're seeing with Robert Saleh, as I mentioned earlier, where he didn't connect with the full roster, the full locker room, the way he should have. And then he learned that, but it was too late because the course was already given. But now he, in another opportunity with the 49ers, honed that skill. And then when he gets it again, he's going to make sure that he connects with the roster from the rip and he gets off on the right start. So I think the retread, so to speak, is not a bad idea. I like that idea because you've been through an experience. It failed, and failure is good. You learn from failure if you apply it correctly. So those are my thoughts there.
Yeah. You look at all of these guys, Saleh, Nagy, Arthur Smith, all of them had reasons that they were not able to keep their last jobs. And Matt Nagy, when you watch that sit-down video of him going through the blind spot report where he's hearing what people thought about him and why people thought he failed, he talked about the ways that he would be better. And I know Nagy is the name that everybody kind of comes back to with the Titans. He talked about how he needs to be better at delegating, which is something that I think a lot of head coaches struggle with of, hey, you've got to trust your people that you hire to go do their jobs. Mm-hmm. I understand that you want to have your hands on everything, but you can't. You've got to be able to selectively choose and be the CEO and let your guys go do what they do on your coaching staff. And he talked about how he'll be better with that. He said he's not going to call plays at his next stop. So I do agree with you that, yeah, retreads, maybe they don't have the ceiling of being Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, but they have the floor of knowing what they need to do better from what they failed at in their first job.
Yeah, and that's just self-improvement, Real quick, I want to shout out my homie. Listen, we the next man up is going international, man.
It is.
Yeah, we got my homie Brandon is listening in Costa Rica. He's on the beach, probably sipping a drink with an umbrella in it, listening to us. So shout out my guy Brandon. He and I used to travel to 49ers games together all the time, man. That's one of my best friends, man.
Let's go. We are on in at least 2 countries now. So in Costa Rica and the United States. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines. Adam in Portland has been waiting patiently. Adam, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Kitty, am I crazy for not wanting a Ravens coach? Now, I wanted consideration. This is what I wanted with that whole situation. I wanted the Titans to be good enough to get him, but not get him. I don't want anything from the Ravens, man. Every good season we've had, they've taken from us. Like every player we've had go, D-Mace, sorry, dude. Every player that goes over there, I lose a little bit of something for that player because I hate the Ravens so much. I don't want Harbaugh. He was the coach when Chris Johnson got twisted in that pile. He was the coach when Lamar and all of his sorry players refused to shake our players' hands. Screw him, dude. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. So I just want to say that as a sore loser going out the door. We didn't get him. Yeah, that's fine. But, also, I didn't want that trash anyway, dude. I hope we get a good coach, and I hope we play him in the playoffs, dude. That's what I want.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to add a little more to that, Adam. Remember going to Baltimore and they stood on the logo? Remember Harbaugh came over and he had beef with them about that? Remember he was talking to AJ and Mike Vrabel about that?
Yep.
Remember the playoff game where they came here and stomped on the Titans logo after the interception? I get it.
Marcus Peters.
Marcus Peters. There's an intense hatred between those two organizations. I love it. I love when football is like there's hatred in it, and the guys like extremely dislike each other and they're going at it. That just adds a level of excitement to me. You look at the old Steelers and Ravens. You look at the Seahawks and 49ers, how that used to be, and go figure we're going to see that this weekend. But no, I feel what Adam is saying. I feel what he's saying. But if he came here, it would have been good for the organization.
No, I 100% get what Adam's saying. As I think back to 9-year-old me bawling my eyes out after the Titans lost that game where Chris Johnson got hurt in the first quarter, and the Ravens shouldn't have been able to win that game because the play clock expired before Joe Flacco got the snap off on that last drive. But, we won't go back 15 years with that. But they, it would have felt nice for the Titans to finally steal something from the Ravens, right? Like the Ravens, they take Derek Mason, Samari Rolle, Derrick Henry, Steve McNair. All of them end up going and finishing their career in Baltimore. It would have been nice to take John Harbaugh from them.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Wes from Hermitage just called in. Wes, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
What's up, guys? TD, Jake, how y'all doing today, man?
What's going on, man? Life is good. How are you?
Great.
Man, living the dream. I'm trying to bridge the gap here. Look, I hate the Ravens just as much as any other Titans fan. I mean, they've ruined things for us in the past. So those are things we'll never forget. But whenever they fire Harbaugh, you kind of have to separate the two. And I thought he was I think he's a great coach. And he was probably my number one top-notch pick. But what I'm having issues with is the same people that are Titans fans that didn't want Harbaugh are all in on Mike McDaniels. And I don't ever feel like he had a full grasp of that locker room. I mean, the time that he had success in Miami I felt like just you had the fastest player in the NFL, just send him on a streak route and have Tua launch the ball down the field. I just didn't ever see that he had a full grasp of that locker room, the team. Offensive coordinator, sure, absolutely. Go help Cam Ward out. But what is the infatuation with Mike McDaniels as the head coach? He just comes across as a complete bozo to me. So I don't understand it. Can somebody help me figure out why he is a top candidate for this head coaching position? What did he prove in Miami?
Honestly, I don't know for sure that he is a top candidate, Wes. To be honest with you, yeah, he did come and he's an in-person interview, etc. But you're right, the passing concepts are proven to be a bit elementary, and this is your concern is something that I've questioned as well. What are you going to do when you don't have a legit Olympic level 4x1 team on offense, right? That's something that I really need to know, right? And although there was success there, you have to look at Chris Greer and what that organization put in there. We're talking about Jalen Waddle. We're talking about Tyreek Hill. We're talking about Devin Achane. We're talking about Raheem Mostert. We're talking about Jonnu Smith catching 10 touchdowns, setting a record for most touchdowns by a tight end in the organization's history. We're talking about all that. We're talking about this organization that they were trading for Bradley Chubb. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. There was no shortage of talent on that team. So the success that he had, they better have had that success because there was so much on the roster. Now, as far as the offense itself, I will say that man knows how to put together a running attack. He knows how to do that. So my whole thing is, how will you marry that to the passing concept? How will you allow that to make Cam Ward have better opportunities throwing the football, bigger windows throwing the football, right? Because we've already seen this organization, their run first, right? That's it. It showed, like, this roster that they have together now. Of course, it's going to be tweaked with free agency, draft, etc. But this group that they have now, their identity is running the football, and then you work off of that. So that is something that I could see, McDaniel being able to work with. But again, this is why a play action heavy, RPO heavy coach like Matt Nagy, in my opinion, appeals to what's here.
Yeah, I get what Wes is saying, because I have seen some Mike McDaniel fanboys on Twitter and other social media the last few days of like, don't let him out of the building without a deal, and jokes yesterday that Amy was flying in to meet with Mike McDaniel and not to go fly out and meet John Harbaugh. I like Mike McDaniel. I think he'd be a great offensive coordinator for this team. I think it'd be an okay hire as a head coach, but there are some people who he is their number one guy, and that doesn't quite make sense to me. But we'll see. We'll see. He got an in-person interview yesterday. I think he's got a few more interviews, both for head coaching and offensive coordinator jobs. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will wrap up hour number 2 after this, continuing to talk the Titans coaching search. Then in the 11 o'clock hour, Dante Moore shocked everybody going back to school. How does that affect the Titans at the top of the draft? And much more coming up before the end of the show. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Finishing up hour number 2 here on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly. Going to talk some draft in the 11 o'clock hour, but wrapping up on the coaching search here as the Titans continue to talk to candidates. TD, I saw a report from Paul Kaharski that the Titans are likely to bring in 3 or 4 finalists, at most 5. And I know you've said throughout the show a couple of names, but let's put you on the spot here. If you had to guess 5 finalists for the Titans job that are coming in for second interviews, who would they be?
Well, I think one of them still has, okay. Vance Joseph, Robert Saleh, Matt Nagy, Arthur Smith. Oh, let me think about this one. So that's 4. Gave you 4 in the possible, like we're playing spades. Let me see.
Vance Joseph, Matt Nagy, Robert Saleh, Arthur Smith.
I'm gonna go with Jeff Hafley.
Okay. I've liked Hafley from the outset here. I think that would be a decent hire that kind of marries the two sides of this search of the young coordinator or youngish coordinator, first-time head coach, but also has experience leading a program. I like that. I think those 5 are good. I don't know about Arthur Smith, though. That's I continue to go back to, I don't know if he is going to get the head coaching job, but I wonder if the Steelers don't bring him back. I don't know if he's under contract for another season. I assume he is. But if the new head coach for the Steelers doesn't bring him back, I do wonder if he becomes a heavy candidate for the Titans offensive coordinator job.
I think so. Because again, that's a marriage to a first-time head coach that I think would be ideal. So it could be one of those where they're interviewing with that in mind. It could be, but I still consider him a guy who would be able to do the job.
I'm going to guess, if I had to guess 5 finalists for the job, I will go, I think Nagy is a pretty safe guess. I'll go Hafley 2. I'll say Mike McDaniel, Mike McCarthy, and Robert Saleh. I think those would be my 5. I'll put McDaniel and McCarthy. Is it just because their name is Mike and apparently the Titans like to hire guys named Mike? Maybe, but
I think
I
could be like Mike.
Mike Malarkey, Mike Munchak, Mike Vrabel. Why not Mike McCarthy or Mike McDaniel? Bring them in. Keep the trend going. Keegan asks on the text line, and I know you've talked about Kevin Stefanski as one that you're not high on, but is there anyone in this group that would legitimately make you go, oh, wow, that sucks? This is a very bad move from the moment it's announced.
I don't even think Stefanski would be one that I would say, oh, wow, that sucks. It's a very bad move, frankly. Let's look at this. I probably wouldn't. Anarumo would be one that I would be like, wow, that's interesting. I didn't think.
Yeah. I think Anarumo would be one of those for me of just like, all right, he's a little older. He's never gotten a head coaching opportunity. So he's inexperienced. And I don't know if there's the same upward mobility or like growth possibilities that you could see from one of the younger guys like Shula or Minter.
Yeah. And I'll add Gannon and Dable. Again, these aren't, Gannon, I would say, hey, man, what y'all doing? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Really?
Jonathan Gannon, I think that's the perfect name for this of, oh, wow, that sucks. I think that would be Jonathan Gannon for me. If they announce the Titans are hiring Jonathan Gannon, I would be, I don't know if devastated is the right word, but I would be very confused at what the process looked like that allowed them to arrive at Jonathan Gannon as the number 1 candidate.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the interview, I could see, hey, look, this is a guy we're going to keep in the pocket on the coordinator side of things. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And another name that I know you've talked about and have said it wasn't a courtesy interview and there are things to like, but if the Titans hired Jason Garrett, I think that would be one of those moves where I'm like, why? Because I get the offensive concepts, but he hasn't coached in the NFL for 5 years? I can't get behind that.
Yeah, no, I get the reservation with that. And I get it, but I do think that there would be a match there, and obviously it's not the same degree, but he has been involved with the league, by way of the NBC stuff.
Yeah, and he was bragging pretty hard on the Titans on Sunday night when he went on the broadcast. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, this is the greatest job ever. Cam Ward, new stadium, cap space draft pick." He was bragging pretty hard, trying to see if maybe he could get in good favor with the Titans brass.
Yeah.
3337 says, "I would only take Stefanski if Jim Schwartz comes as the DC." And maybe that would be a package deal that could be appealing to Titans fans. Even if Stefanski isn't the hire that you would want, bringing Jim Schwartz back as the DC could be attractive.
Yeah, well, I'll counter that with, because this is something that we talked about on the show yesterday, Mike McDaniel and Jim Schwartz. You got the good cop, bad cop type of situation. What do you think of that?
I like that. And the one that everybody's loved to talk about is Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniel too.
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel, it's seeming more likely
Go ahead.
that he could get a head coaching job. But if it ended up being a possibility and you go Saleh McDaniel, I think that would satisfy almost everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Lenny on the text line says, "I will move out of Nashville if they hire Jason Garrett." That seems a little extreme, Lenny. You can just stop following the team. Having to leave Nashville seems a little over the top, but I think that is probably
drawing the line, man.
I think that is probably the sentiment about Jason Garrett of Titans fans, of they would probably stop following the team. Mike McCoy is another one there. We haven't heard anything about Mike McCoy since he conducted his interview last Tuesday. So I think that one felt like more of a courtesy interview, but I think that's another one that fans probably wouldn't be too happy about if he ended up being the guy.
No, they wouldn't be happy about that.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Titans head coaching search continuing. Tomorrow, Brian Daboll. Saturday, Mike McCarthy. And then Sunday, Jonathan Gannon and Robert Saleh. Those are the final interviews, as far as I know, that are on the schedule for now. And then the Titans Monday can start to bring most of their candidates back in for secondary interviews if they make that final group. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, let's talk some draft, because there was a big development yesterday. Dante Moore returning to Oregon for another season. How does that affect the Titans at the top of the draft, considering there's one less quarterback that could go in front of them? We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, next minute, 2-5, the game. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on this Thursday, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Great stuff from everybody out there during Talk to TD. Good stuff on our phone and text line. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to chime in. TD, let's talk some draft. We are 3 months away still, but it is, it's the season where everything means something in the draft, and we're getting close to Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl. And the big news yesterday, Dante Moore, quarterback for Oregon, is returning to the Ducks for one more year, was expected widely to be the second overall pick. And now for the Titans, there's going to be another non-quarterback who could come off the board. Fernando Mendoza is going to go number one. That feels almost guaranteed at this point. But now at 2 and 3, unless somebody really falls in love with Ty Simpson, it looks like instead of the Titans getting the first or second best non-quarterback in the draft, they could very well end up with the third.
It's okay, right? Because I think you also have to consider another option that is sneaking in here, and that's David Bailey out of Texas Tech. He's the guy that I could see. And, we talked about this last week. So, I mean, they still have their pick of players to look at, and obviously it does hurt a bit for their prospect range, just because it is another guy that's probably going to be taken off. But let's say that QB premium is placed on Alabama's quarterback, you know what I mean? And he ends up going high. What happens there? Like if he has a strong, like we've seen guys have very good draft seasons, and next thing you know, they're elevated. So we've seen quarterbacks get overdrafted too. So let's see what happens there. But without a doubt, Dante Moore would have been, probably the second or third player drafted. And maybe that takes a real Reese out of it. And David Bailey is a consolation prize, or Reuben Bain. But you also have to still think, they're going to get their shot at least the second best, at minimum, the second best pass rusher. And that can be different to various evaluators, right? It could be Bain, Reese, or Bailey. But then also you consider Jordan Tyson and Carnell Tate. Those will be options as well. So they'll still get a good pick of quality premium players.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Ty Simpson, we mentioned it yesterday on the show that he turned down a lot of money to go into the draft. And his dad talked to ESPN and said every GM we talked to, every exec said that they had a first-round grade on Ty Simpson. So it wouldn't shock me if the Jets or the Cardinals, who are likely quarterback needy. We don't know what the Cardinals are going to do yet with Kyler Murray, but I think it's safe to assume he won't be their quarterback next year, that they could fall in love with Ty Simpson during the process and take him second or third overall. So that would be another player that the Titans would have available to them. I really am shocked that Dante Moore is going back to school. And I know Parker thought that maybe this was something that Moore would do. He's somebody who is mature and realizes that he had more growth to do in college before he goes to the NFL. And I'm sure he's getting $4, $5, $6 million to go back to Oregon. But man, this is a big risk for him to go back to school. An injury or a down year could end up costing him $20, $30 million in the long run that he would have gotten guaranteed if he was picked second overall this year.
Yeah, I think you look at I always, when I see this type of situation, I think of Matt Barkley. And, this guy, if he came out after his sophomore year or whatever, if he'd have come out, he would have been like a top 5 pick. He stayed and ended up going third round, but then you have your Jake Lockers, right, who could have came out, but he went back and then he came out and he was still a high pick. I just wonder, man, Oregon is spending a lot of money on the quarterback position, right? Because they got Dylan Raiola too. So that's going to be a wild sedan. That's back-to-back years where they've done this, right? Because Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore, right? And now it's Dante Moore and Raiola. That's a lot of money being spent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Dante Moore coming back now. Dylan Raiola, who is a 5-star, I believe in the same class as Moore coming out. So they came out together as 5-stars, now in the same quarterback room out there in Oregon. For the Titans, you mentioned a lot of the names that the Titans could look at number 4. Pass rush, it's Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Ruben Bain. Wide receiver, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson. There is a name that I've been seeing people mention and even had a text about it today, and that's Jeremiah Love. I like Jeremiah Love. I think he may end up being one of the best players in this draft. But could you see the Titans using that 4th overall pick on a running back right now?
No, I would be very surprised if they did. And Love he's an outstanding player. Do you feel like he's a Bijan Robinson, a Saquon Barkley?
He could be, but even if he is, how much better does that make the Titans right now?
Yeah.
Running back, I've said it before. I view it as such a luxury pick of when you got the quarterback and you've got tackles and you've got pass rushers and you have wide receivers, and maybe an injury or something leads to you being picking in the top 5, and there's a great running back there. That's a luxury pick, and you can take him if you think he's the missing piece for you. But the Titans have so many missing pieces that what makes a bigger difference for your team over the next 10 years? Is it Jeremiah Love as a running back or an elite pass rusher or number 1 wide receiver for your young quarterback? I just don't think you can afford to pick a running back with the 4th overall pick.
No, I get it. I get it, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. To me, and you got to take a pass rusher. Yeah, at 4, you got to take a pass rusher. You got to take either Bain, Reese, Bailey, whoever's there. That's who you take. To me, looking horizontally and weighing in, because this is something I will say, I think that there is a pass rusher tax that has to be put into this evaluation as well. Just like you had the quarterback tax, I think there's a pass rusher tax. Now, I'm not saying as high as the quarterback tax, but I think there has to be one. And so that being said, to me, Bailey, Bain, Reese are all more valuable chips than Tate or Tyson. And I will stand on that.
I would agree with that. Especially the wide receiver group looks to be, I think both the wide receiver and edge group are actually pretty deep this year, but I think you have a higher likelihood of one of those top wide receivers, in the top 5 in the class slipping to you at 35 than you do of the edge rushers. I mean, we've talked about all of the edge guys who are up there, and somebody that you mentioned on Twitter after our show last week is Keldrick Falk at Auburn. And somebody had him mocked to the Titans at number 4. Yeah. I think pass rusher is where they have to go, given that group at the top. And there are 3 or 4 elite names, but none of those guys are going to be there sitting waiting for you at number 35.
Yeah. And I mean, look, Tyson and Tate won't be sitting there waiting at 35 either, but right. Jeremy Bernard very well maybe, right? Or you still have to consider, the cornerback aspect of it too in the second round. So there's a lot to really look at and think about. But I believe that they could get a receiver second, third round. But this is why you got to go out and spend free agency wise. You know what I mean? You got to go out and get a Romeo Doubs or Alec Pierce. I know people have mentioned George Pickens. Just go ahead and shoot a hole in that. It's not happening. Yep. There's just too much of a personality conflict in addition to the high volume of money that he's going to command. But yeah, I think those guys will be really good options. And it's just so unfortunate that Calvin Ridley had the injury, because I feel like he probably would have turned it around, and that might have been a guy that you could say, hey, that's the veteran of the wide receiver room again, because Ridley to me is still a very talented receiver. He's a guy that I think is somewhat of a game changer. I mean, you look at some of the things he did this not last year, but the year before. It's just the inconsistency with the drops and things like that. But he is a guy that has a positive influence. Talking to Alec Eierman or talking to Chim DK, they're like, man, I see this guy go hard on every rep. I can't help but do it also, because that's Calvin freaking Ridley. I'm a rookie 4th round pick, I better go hard too.
Do you think there's any chance Calvin Ridley sticks around? I know he can't be the plan as a veteran wide receiver, but could he be part of the plan to come back for that receiver room?
I would be very surprised if Calvin Ridley is still around. And it's unfortunate because I really like Calvin. You know what I mean? I like him. It was cool getting to know him a bit more this year. You know what I mean? But, it is what it is. That's a high number. And he's a guy that, had some drop issues. We all know that. The highlight when Calvin Ward got up and he looked like he ate something bad after that drop. But I mean, you look, there's an out. His cap hit is $26.7 million. Jake, $26.7 million if he's on the roster next year. And the dead cap is what, 8 something? So it's very likely that 13. So they could cut it in half. I think they probably move on from him. I'm just curious what Romeo Doubs, what Alec Pierce would command money-wise. If I'm going and getting Matt Nagy, if I'm getting Arthur Smith, I'm signing up for Alec Pierce because I could just see those play action deep shots to him down the field, and Cam Ward is going to love it.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your texts and calls on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll keep talking Titans offseason on the other side. There's another veteran receiver out there that could be intriguing to the Titans, and more on the draft as well, as the Senior Bowl is coming up in just a couple of weeks. I know there are some names out there that were supposed to be on the roster that TD is a little disappointed he won't get to see. So we'll talk about that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 125 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Final hour on this Thursday. Talking Titans. We went through a lot of the coaching search stuff in the first couple hours. So if you missed that, you can go back on the podcast. Talked about John Harbaugh and other big candidates for the Titans job after Harbaugh is now going to the Giants. But talking about the offseason now here, TD, wide receiver is going to be a focal point for this team. Yeah. And I'm with you that I think you have to go pass rusher at number 4 just because that's where the best pass rushers are picked. Wide receivers, if you feel convicted on a guy, there's going to be options in round 2. But I do think you need to go to the free agent market. You mentioned Alec Pierce. You mentioned Romeo Doubs. How about a local guy, Jawan Jennings, coming back to Tennessee? I think that could end up being a good veteran number 2 option for this team, and then you go out and draft somebody in the second round who can hopefully be the future number 1 for Cam Ward.
Yeah, that's a good idea. But first things first, I have recall. We got Public Enemy, Rebel Without a Pause. We got Slick Rick. We got Run DMC, King of Rock. We got LL Cool J. I'm bad. Parker is in his bag.
Yeah.
I gotta say, he's in his bag, man. He's in his bag.
It's easier for me when I'm in the room with you to tell when Parker's got a hit going. Like, I can't see you, so it's tough for me to like understand what the vibes are back in the studio and if Parker's got a hit going. So I'm glad to know that Parker is killing it back
vibes
there.
Are high. Vibes are high.
Vibes are high. But as far as what you said, here's the thing. They're in a really good situation in that there are multiple edge prospects that are equivalent to the first or second ranked receiver. You follow what I'm saying? So the horizontal board, to me, it fits drafting Reese, Bain, or Bailey before Tate or Tyson. Because when you look at the positional value, the prospect value, and then you also, again, look at the tax. Because I know, because Joe Blacko 5 on the chat is saying edge is deep in the class, and that's true. But I think there's a bigger drop-off from Bain, Reese, and Bailey to the next group, and Cassius Howe is not going to be there in the second round, right?
Yeah,
very unlikely. So there's a bigger drop-off. You know what I mean? From those guys at 4 to the ones that'll be available in the second round than there is from, because to me personally, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Tate and Tyson, they do offer a lot. I think Jeremy Bernard offers you something. Mekhi Lemon is a very attractive prospect as well, kind of in that Jackson Smith and Jigba mode. But I think you still have options that you could go for in the second round. And it's just when you look at that position, I think you could get that also in free agency. And Joe, it's not halfway doing receiver. You're addressing the position in the draft, right? Or excuse me, in free agency. So you don't have to use a premium pick on a receiver in the draft. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think it is just a positional value thing of when you're picking at number 4, if you're taking a wide receiver, you've got to think this guy is a future all-pro. Like when Marvin Harrison came out, Marvin Harrison Jr. a couple of years ago, Malik Neighbors, those were guys who were viewed as, hey, these are bona fide stars when you draft them. I like Carnell Tate. I really do. And I like Jordan Tyson. If he can stay healthy, I think he could end up being a star wide receiver. But I don't know if those guys are the type of prospect that you look and say they're worth a top 5 pick. At edge, the top edge guys are kind of always worth a top 5 pick because of that positional value that they carry with them.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea, the positional value. And I think these guys, Bain, Bailey, Reese, those to me are more difference makers at that position than a Tate or a Tyson is. And that's not to say that either of those guys, that's not to say Tate or Tyson aren't top prospects. They are. But I just don't see the degree of separation between the two. You know what I mean? And that's the main thing, because some people they like a Denzel Boston. I'm not crazy about him, but I think when you look at some of these other guys, Zachariah Branch, Cliff Branch's nephew, he's a guy I saw at USC as a freshman. Just yeah, he did the thing, and then he's been an outstanding player for Georgia. I think you look at some of these prospects. I mean, KC Conception, you're going to see him at the Senior Bowl. This is a difference maker that you could get a little bit later. And they're just, you try not to draft exceptions, right? You know what I mean? But I think KC Conception, even though he's not a big player, I think he gives you like that Tank Dell type of weapon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you do have to consider, I always say, size is not a skill, but you do have to consider how players his size, have fared, in the past. So that is going to be an issue. I mean, you're looking, he's 5'11", 190. Now he'll probably come in a bit under that, because we know that the schools tend to inflate their measurables. So you just got to see where he checks in at. But he's a guy that was a tremendous playmaker, both in the return game, which you don't need, but also just as a multi-use weapon on offense.
Yeah, the names that you can expect to be there at wide receiver at the top of the second round are much more intriguing than the names at edge that you would see at the top of the second round. And you mentioned most of them. I know Jeremy Bernard is your guy, Cassius Howell your guy. I was disappointed for you when I saw your tweet the other day that they're not going to be at the Senior Bowl.
Oh, man, it hurt my feelings for sure. It really hurt my feelings. David Bailey is going to, he's scheduled to be there. We'll see what happens there, but yeah, man. Akeem Mesidor is going to be there too. Now, that's a legit pass rusher that may be there. TJ Parker, they may be there at the top of the second. But to your point, though, man, not being able to see Bernard there working that one-on-one, not seeing the pass rush opportunities that Cassius Howell. I don't know what happened there, but it is disappointing.
Draft season starting to heat up. We are 3 months away, so still a long way to go. First on the Titans docket, find a head coach. Free agency comes up after that in March, and then the draft in April. Titans have a lot of work to do on this roster, and disappointing that Dante Moore isn't coming out, because it did make it more likely that the Titans would have their pick of the litter when it came to all of the non-quarterback prospects, but still going to have a chance to take a very good player at number 4 overall. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, NFL divisional weekend coming up this weekend. Going to get TD's thoughts on 4 great games that are coming up Saturday and Sunday, and much more. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Couple more segments on this Thursday. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour. TD, we talked a lot of Titans today, but the NFL season still rolling on. Divisional round of the playoffs start on Saturday, and this might be as wide open as it's ever been. And I love that we really don't have a great idea of who is going to go to the Super Bowl this year. And maybe that's just the benefits of not having Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs for the first time in a decade.
Yeah, I think that's where if I'm Josh Allen, I'm like, the time is now. We got to expand the whole operation. I think it's a great opportunity. But at the same time, man, Vrabel and those Patriots are playing ball, and Vance Joseph has the Broncos defense playing outstanding. So that's not to say it's sweet, right? And we know DeMeco Ryans and that Texans team, that defense is outstanding as well with Azeez Al-Shire in the middle of it as a Pro Bowler. They're good on all levels. So it is somewhat sweet, but I don't think it's as sweet like an easy victory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we're going to find out throughout both sides of the bracket what matters more right now. Is it quarterback or is it your defense? Because that's the dichotomy you've got in the Bills-Broncos game of, hey, the Bills have the best quarterback left. Josh Allen has proven that he is one of the elite guys, but the team around him probably isn't as talented as what Denver has. 68 sacks for the Broncos this year. They're going to be coming after him. And then on the other side, I know the Patriots have a solid defense too. They just held the Chargers to 3 points. But it's MVP candidate Drake May against that vaunted Texans defense. We're going to find out a lot about whether these quarterbacks have what it takes to come through in the big moments and get their team a playoff win.
Yeah, these games are going to be fun to watch and on both sides. But, just – the key to me in that Broncos-Bills game, James Cook, and I'm sick and tired of him just getting brushed aside. This guy, if I'm not mistaken, he led the league in rushing. You know what I mean? He's not a slouch, and he's someone you could throw the ball to as well as an option. So I think that's going to be important. I believe Patrick Surtain the second, he kind of wipes away the receivers there on the Bills. But, man, James Cook, if they could get him going and he could be an option for them against that pressure Broncos defense, that will help them out an awful lot. But I think the Broncos win that game. This Patriots-Texans one, though, that's just it's a toss-up. I don't know what to make of that one. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy watching that game.
Yes. CJ Stroud needs to realize how he can best serve the team, I guess would be the best way to put it. That defense is so good that they're going to keep the Texans in the game. He can't play hero ball. He had a couple of plays in that Steelers game where it felt like he was just trying to do too much. When you got to realize, hey, that defense on the other side, they scored more points than the Steelers did all by themselves. You don't have to do all that much to win these football games when you have that defense. He's just got to not make the crucial mistakes that could lead to points on the other end for New England this weekend.
Another key in that, Jake, is going to be Nico Collins because that was a brutal fall. Like he fell right on his forehead, man, and that ground was frozen. So I don't know how that concussion situation, the protocol is going to work for him. That's a key part of it too. Because if he's healthy, that matchup with Christian Gonzalez is, that's must-see TV right there, too. And we know that Nico Collins is a guy that C.J. Stroud loves to go to. I would say this, though. There were a couple throws that Stroud made that I think were outstanding. And obviously, the 5 fumbles, I would say at least one of them was not his fault, when the ball was snapped and he wasn't looking. There were a couple that where he did have full accountability for it. It was his fault, but that's going to be a key connection right there if Collins plays or not. And then I think you also look at Xavier Hutchinson made some really, and he's a guy I've always liked out of Iowa State. He made some big time plays, and I think being that, and that's what the playoffs are about, right? That guy stepping up who's not typically a frontline player, right? Being able to find those guys to elevate their game in crunch time and become a big-time player, making big-time plays in big-time games, as Steve Smith Sr. would say.
Yeah, I look at the AFC with those 4 teams, and it's about as close to a 25% chance for all of them as I mean, it's probably not equal. I think maybe I'd give the 2 teams they got, the Broncos got the bye. I'd give the Patriots a little bit of a better chance, but man, it's going to be 2 good games out there in the AFC side. On the NFC side, the Seahawks, I think that's the one I feel the most confident in this weekend in picking, that the Seahawks are going to win that game. I love the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach, but they're banged up. And the NFL schedule makers did them absolutely no favors, making them play on short rest while the Seahawks are coming off a bye, playing in one of the greatest environments across the NFL.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks are going to win that one. And I touched on it earlier, right? That Seahawks-49ers rivalry. I mean, this goes back to, when Colin Kaepernick and Russell Wilson first got to the league, right? And there were NFC Championship game, Michael Crabtree, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor blasting Vernon Davis. Here's the thing. I'm with you on the confidence there with the Seahawks because George Kittle is out. Now, I don't know what it is about this 49ers team. Well, I know what it is. They're very well coached. Those guys find ways to make up for players being out, like they just do. And this is part of the reason why I think Robert Saleh has to be a guy that they need to look at here with the Titans. Now, to me, I don't know that you could find a player, maybe Josh Allen, but outside of Josh Allen, Sam Darnold is probably the player with the most on the line, because he's had 2 outstanding regular seasons, right? Outstanding regular season. We know his biggest fan resides here in Nashville. I think when you look at if he could show improve in this game, like he could really elevate himself to deserving to be mentioned among the top quarterbacks in the league. But that's the big question with him because we've seen what has happened numerous times. Now, he showed some signs of not having that happen this year, but you look at last year, like he crapped the bed in the Lions game as well as the Rams game. And so how will he be able to overcome that stigma of being someone that doesn't play well in clutch situations?
Yeah, I think you're right. The 2 guys who have the most on the line heading into this weekend are Josh Allen and Sam Darnold. For Josh Allen, it's the idea of, all right, you've been the story around Josh Allen is, man, he just can't get past Mahomes. He can't get past Mahomes. Well, Mahomes isn't there. Can you go do it when that big blockade that's been in front of you for years isn't there anymore? And you're right, Sam Darnold, he proved in the regular season that he can win some big games, coming back and beating the Rams in Seattle late in the season. Last week with the number 1 seed on the line, able to go into San Francisco and get a win. He's won some big games. Can he do it when it really matters in the playoffs? That's going to be the question. And I feel confident in the Seahawks. Again, the injuries, the short rest for San Francisco, and that defense for Seattle. But if Sam Darnold doesn't play good football, if he turns it over, the 49ers are more than capable of taking advantage. They've all been there before. This is a team that's experienced in the playoffs. And I think it's very possible the Niners win, but out of the 4 games, I think that's the one I feel the most confident in.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you there. I'll say this too, moving on to that final game as we'll discuss. The Bears and the Patriots, to me, they're playing with house money, But this Rams team, we know they're very dangerous. Devontae Adams leading the league in touchdown receptions. We know Puka Nacua is out of this world. The defense, is playing really well. Also, I think that Rams-Bears game is going to be a fun one to watch as well. But again, they're playing on house money. But I'll say this, that throw that Caleb Williams made in the clutch.
The 4th down one?
Yes. Stepping up, sliding to the left, and like that thread in the needle pass. I really like what the Bears have been able to do. And, they also looking at how they layer plays, right? They screened a couple times to Luther Burden, you know what I mean? And then they pump fake and DJ Moore got free. He beat, I think it was Trevon Diggs. He beat him and he was free there on along the sideline, and he had that big touchdown. the play design, the play calling, I tip my cap to Ben Johnson. And again, you talk about the hatred that you like to see in the league. You know what I mean? You saw it. He said it rhymes with truck at the Packers. You know what I mean? And I just love that. And that's an example of a guy coming in and changing the culture. And it didn't happen immediately, right? It was gradual. But now the Bears, I mean, they're for real, but they're playing with house money because you got a young coach and you got a young quarterback, and they're just going to be able to continue to build. And, oh, by the way, that guy Kevin Byard led the league in interceptions.
Still
again.
Doing it.
Yep.
Still doing it. And me and Parker had the conversation yesterday of what can the Titans learn from the Patriots and the Bears, because the Titans are in a very similar situation to those two teams a year ago. I think everybody can say Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Drake May all had disappointing rookie seasons.
Yeah.
Reasons for optimism, but disappointing based on where they were drafted. What did the Bears and Patriots do? They got an experienced play caller, Ben Johnson, Josh McDaniels, and they surrounded him with weapons. And look where they are now. I'm not saying that's the jump that the Titans and Cam Ward are going to take, but the blueprint is there for these teams of, hey, our rookie quarterback, we didn't surround him with as much as we needed to. We did not give him the structure he needed to. Here's what you can do in that offseason to get this team back to being competitive next year.
Mm-hmm. Matt Nagy, Doug Peterson, Raheem Morris. Championship. Remember the old commercial? TJ, who's your mama? Championship. No, but I think like I think that would be a good one, a good combination right there.
I like that trio. I do. I think that would be a good group. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We got one more segment with TD. So last call for phones. We'll wrap up the show after this. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game final segment on this Thursday. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Been a fun show. Tomorrow, Max Hers is with us from 9 to 10, talking Predators and much more. TD, before we get out of here, I never got your thoughts on the Vandy women's basketball game last weekend that you were at, or last week. You went to the game against Missouri. What were your impressions of the team out there?
Hey, I got a great deal on the tickets. I'll say that. And I'll tell you, Aubrey Calvin, is that her name?
Aubrey Galvin.
Yo, she is smooth, spelled with a V-E. I really love her game, man. So I've actually become a fan of hers too. But Michaela Blake's, I call her the female Steph Curry. That game that I saw against Missouri, though, she reminded me of Gilbert Arenas, where, like, next thing you know, she had 20 plus. I mean, she went into the fourth quarter with 8 points. And the thing that I love about her is she continued to shoot. Even though she was off, she continued to shoot. Next thing you know, she scored 14 points in like 2.5 minutes, and she got 20 plus, and it's like, oh, right where she needed to be. And coincidentally, that helped fuel them really, really separating from Mizzou. I was a little nervous early, but great game. I love the atmosphere. I will be at more of these games, guaranteed. And, I went to the game by myself and still enjoyed it. So, yeah, 100%, man. I'm a Vandy fan for sure.
Yeah, it was funny with Michaela in that game because I was all ready for post-game interview when one of the coaches comes over to ask about, hey, Michaela had an off night, but the rest of your team stepped up, blah, blah, blah. And she ended up leading the team in scoring because she scored 12 points in the fourth quarter. It's just unbelievable. She can score in bunches. You just look up and you're like, oh, she scored 20 again or 25 or 30 or whatever it ends up being.
But with Aubrey Galvin, she's tough, man. Go ahead. She's tough.
I was about to say, so Aubrey Galvin, I sat down with her club coach for a little bit before the season, and I had the same thought as him, and I wanted to get your thoughts. If there's one basketball player, NBA, WNBA, college, whatever it is, one basketball player that you would compare her game to, who would it be?
Let me think on this because I like her defense too. She could rebound. I don't know, man. I don't know.
So the style she plays with, immediately when I watched her, I had one thought: white chocolate. Jason Williams. That is how she plays.
Yeah.
Like the flashy passes, and it. Sometimes her teammates, like, they gotta have their head on a swivel every time Aubrey has the ball because she is sprinting up the floor and she knows where everybody is and she'll throw it to you before you even know you're open.
Yeah.
But yeah, white chocolate was the name that her club coach said, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly right.
That's a good one. I like that one. And was it Justine Pisa?
Passat.
That's number 13, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sharpshooter.
Yeah, man. And she's 6'4", man. 6'4" playing guard.
Yeah, she her first couple of years, it was like all she wanted to do was shoot threes, and that was something that the coaches were trying to get more out of her. You're 6'4", you can play defense, you can rebound, and she's done everything that the teams needed from her, and she's still shooting elite. I think she's shooting close to 45% from three this year. She hit 6 on Sunday against Texas A&M, so she's been awesome. This team's really good. They're 17-0. A chance tonight to get to 18-0 for the first time ever. This program has won SEC tournament titles. They've gone to a Final Four. None of those teams have started at 18-0. So a chance to do that tonight.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Go ahead and say number 15's name for 2.
Jackalingam Wenentanda.
Good job, man. Great job. Couldn't have been me doing that. I'd just be like, number 15. She's good.
See,
3.
It was a little bit challenging last year because she played at Texas, and I remember looking at Texas's roster and seeing her name, and I'm like, man, what am I supposed to say? And so I got at least a little practice last year. So when she transferred here, it was a little bit easier. But yeah, she's been great. This team's a lot of fun. Tonight, the game is in Starkville, where I am right now. Mississippi State. They are 14-4 this year. It is a 5:30 tip-off, 5:15 pregame show on 94.9 The Fan. So excited for that. Again, 18-0 would be the best start in program history. Trying to keep at least one of the Vanderbilt basketball programs undefeated after, sadly, the men fell last night at Texas.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, they fell. Next home game, January 22nd against Auburn. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be – I'm trying to think. I forget when the Senior Bowl is. I know I got to go out there, but Senior Bowl permitting, I will be at that game. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of road games the next couple of weeks. Like we're here tonight. We play Michigan in a neutral site game on Monday. That's the top 10 matchup, so make sure you tune in for that. We're at South Carolina, at Ole Miss. But there are a lot of really good games in February. Yes, back-to-back within 3 days at Memorial, Oklahoma and Texas are both top 10 teams. So if you're looking ahead for, hey, I want to go out and I want to see, top 10 battle between Vanderbilt, Texas, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, those are the games. And I believe Florida on February 1st, I believe tickets are only $1 or $2 for that one. Wow. So plenty of opportunities to come out and see this team play. And as TD said, you don't want to miss it. Aubrey Galvin, Michaela Blakes should be enough of a selling point to come out and watch them. They're must-see.
Yeah, for sure, man. I enjoyed it.
Again, tonight, game is at 5:30. 5:15, I'll be on the air at 94.9 The Fan. So if you want to tune in, would love to have you. Commodores, again, looking to make some history tonight. Matthew in Nashville on the text line says, hope you brought some earplugs for those annoying cowbells, Jake. At the very least, my headset will hopefully drown some of that out. But we're used to it. The hog calls at Arkansas a couple of weeks ago were just as strange that they do throughout the game. The Woo Pig Suey.
Yeah, for sure. And look, man, it's in the chat there, and 100% right, Aubrey, Calvin. Candace Story Lee, man, we said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. Props to her. You talk about a culture setter, a person who put this school back on the map. I mean, Vandy football, we saw what happened there. Obviously, baseball has been what it is. The basketball team, has resurfaced. They've surged from the ashes and 17-1. And what more can we say about the women's team? Yeah, Candace Story Lee, round of applause for you, for sure.
Yes. Shout out Candace Story Lee. She has done a phenomenal job. And again, tonight, Doors looking to start 18-0. TD, always a pleasure having you. We will be back together in person next Thursday. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it. Great job on just steering this ship, man. Appreciate you. I hope you enjoy this game tonight. I'll be listening, and let's keep it rolling.
That'll do it for us today. Tomorrow on the program, Max Hers is with us for the first hour. We'll also have Jada Brown from Vandy Women's Basketball on the show as well. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.